Record. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to year zero. Soon we'll be joined by our guest, RedHawk. But before we get to that, go to libertarianinstitute.org/donate and give us your money. If you want to keep all these podcasts and all the articles and books coming out from the Libertarian Institute, go to libertarianinstitute.org and donate. It is our fundraiser right now. So go give us some money, keep us all busy. If you fail to pay us, we will fail to exist. So libertarianinstitute.org/donate. Come on, man. You know you love us. And out. And I wrote this out just so I could read it because I was stumbling everywhere last time. So in May of 2024, I made a huge step. I quit smoking. I realized after 28 years of smoking cigarettes, my quality of life had diminished significantly. I couldn't complete seemingly menial tasks without experiencing shortness of breath. I had enough. But as smokers know, quitting is a big decision. Over the years, you reflexively begin to make decisions around your ability to feed your habit, and you become a slave to your vice. This is when I began utilizing nicotine pouches. All the nicotine, none of the shallow breathing. It's a win-win. Now I'm proud to announce Year Zero is an affiliate of Alp nicotine pouches. Alp is by far the best nicotine pouch that I've tried since embarking on a smokeless life. Its long-lasting flavor and burst of nicotine satisfy my cravings for hours at a time. It comes in a variety of flavors. My go-to flavor is wintergreen. Check the description of this podcast for a link that allows you to set up recurring orders, delivering Alp satisfaction to your door, and get 10% off your order. If you're looking for all the benefits of straight nicotine without the tar and chemicals of cigarettes, I can't recommend Alp enough. Your lungs will thank you, your breath will no longer stink, and your wallet will thank you. If you place an order of $70 or more, you will also be rewarded with free shipping. That's 5 logs or 15 cans of 20 pouches for recurring each month with free shipping and 10% off your purchases. It's about $70 if you get five a week. Well, if you do fifteen cans a week, a month, that's about $70. That's about what I pay. You get your free shipping. If you're done with tobacco but love nicotine, click the link in the description and get your Alp shipped out to you today. You will not regret it. If you love nicotine, you love flavor, you'll love Alp. Go get you some Alp nicotine pouches today and use the link in the description. Therefore, I get paid too. Supply Support my Alp habit by buying Alp today. Thanks, guys. All right. I'm here with Red Hawk. What is up, dude?
Not much, man. It's been good. I forget the last time we chatted was maybe sometime around like October, maybe September or something. It was before the election. I remember that. But
It was before I went to Namibia, so it had to be before October. It's probably September.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
something like
It's,
that.
it's been it's been a little bit. Yeah. Yeah. And I went, I'm sure you've heard, I tried to go through my trip to Namibia without knowing what happened in the election. I was just like, I just want to escape everything. I'm gone. I'm like in the third world, out in the middle of nowhere. Like, why do people keep talking about this? I don't care. Like at this moment, I just don't want to know what's going on in America.
Mm. Yeah, I guess that is kind of an interesting point, right? It's like no matter where you go, you're kind of trapped into the current thing that's going on with the United States, right? Just because, like, America number one, baby, right?
Yeah, right. Well,
Just
I was in Etosha National Park. right? So the only thing around there are animals, and then you have these campgrounds like set up randomly throughout the park. And we had gone from our campground probably about an hour and a half north, about 45 miles, 45 miles north. It takes about an hour and a half, given like driving through all the side roads and everything.
Hmm.
And it it had taken us like half the day. We got up there, we ordered a beer, and we were sitting outside next to the pool, having a beer. And I hear this chick walk by, and she's just like, what did you make of the American election last night? I was like, oh geez, just shut up. And so so I look at my father-in-law, and I just started talking really loud so I didn't hear anything they said, because I was
Yeah.
like, I don't want to know. And I made it till 2 days out, because I was gone till the 11th, I want to say, of November. And it was like the 9th of November. I walked into the hotel in Johannesburg, South Africa, and they had CNN on. And I was like,
Oh, it's
Jesus, you
over.
just can't get away from this shit.
There's no way. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, now within the context of everyone having US AIDS, everyone's all focused about it, because it's like, oh, we're getting our funding, from
What? Okay, so Trump did his speech last night. I saw y'all had watched it. I haven't watched y'all stream, but I saw that
Mhm.
y'all had watched it on your stream last night, and it was so funny that he brought up Lesotho, because
Yeah.
Lesotho, like, do you know where that's at?
Yeah, it's that landlocked country in the middle of South Africa.
South
It's like really
Africa,
tiny. It's like
right?
as big as
Yeah,
like Rhode Island
exactly.
or something. Yeah.
It's tiny. It's tiny, and it's all tribal. So it's like,
Hmm.
what the hell does like what do these tribal people give a shit about LGBTQ, right? Like
Yeah.
that's like that's like spreading it to 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 like the jungles of Brazil or something. Like
Hmm.
like these people barely even know that the white people exist. They don't know anything about gay people.
Hmm. Um, I forget there's some kind of principle. I forget the name of it. I'm sure somebody will scream it, but there's like something where it's like you just don't contact like first like people's tribes or anything like that. There's like laws that have been passed in Brazil and stuff. It's like no, you just don't talk to these people. You don't give them like modern technology or anything like that because like from like an anthropology perspective, you just want to preserve like this way of life. You don't want to like corrupt them with iPhones or some shit. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like the same thing with that, where uh the prevailing upper like ruling class in the United States is just, oh, we have to export gay race communism literally everywhere throughout the entire world.
Well, that must be like some liberal ideal that has just rubbed off on me and like stuck, because I remember when I was reading one of Klaus Schwab's book about the fourth industrial revolution. It talked about going into those areas and giving them modern technology, and I'm like, why? Like, leave these people alone. They don't want anything, like the Amish don't want anything to do with your technology and your modern like way of life. Like, just leave them alone. But their
Mhm.
whole argument was, this is the way that you have to entrap them into your propaganda, was by infiltrating their way of life, and then and kind of forcing modern technology upon them.
Yeah, I mean, I guess well, I mean, it's kind of like what the whole neocon agenda was, right? Like throughout the wars in the late 90s and into the early 2000s, like we're going to democratize the Middle East, right? We're going to bring, American values over there and everyone's just going to love it. It's just this blank slate nonsense that has been fed to us for the last 60 years that, oh, well, everyone's the same as long as they're taught about their big D democracy in middle school. Everyone's gonna sing Kumbaya, no matter your race, no matter your religion, no matter your ethnicity, anything. Everyone's just the same. They just haven't been given the right ideas yet.
Yeah. Every culture is equal.
Hmm.
It's this kind of egalitarian kind of mindset, which got blown up majorly with that Zelensky meeting in the Oval Office.
I know you're not
And
like as down on Trump as I am, but like what'd you think about that? Like where he just kind of like showed him his balls basically. It's like what the fuck? You've been peddling, for money for how long from us here? And I don't know, it just felt very cathartic to me for somebody to
yes,
finally like call
yeah.
Zelensky out on bullshit. Because like you could just tell he's never been told no, like ever since this whole thing started.
So I'm not a huge Trump guy. Like the first term, I was much more like Kyle Matovic about Trump. Um, it wasn't until he named JD Vance as his vice president
Mm,
that I was like, okay, like this is going to be something different. And I'm much more of a JD Vance fan. Like he just, as far as aligning with my politics, he aligns with me much more. But yes, for sure. I was just like, about fucking time. This guy just thinks he can go around and throw his weight around, sling his balls wherever he wants to sling them, and we're just supposed to take it. Like, will somebody tell this guy that he like he's not like entitled to money from the United States? Will
yeah, he
somebody
just
just put him in
exists
his
at our
place?
mercy. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like at any moment the hose could be turned off on this guy and his people are just either gonna rip him limb from limb or the Russians are gonna come over and it's not gonna look too pretty. But it's just he comes in, he starts arguing with like, dude, nobody goes into the president in the Oval Office and argues with Donald Trump. Like, come on, man. Like you gotta think your moves a little bit more than this guy
Right.
did.
Yeah, yeah. Like if I were going to have a pissing contest with Donald Trump, it wouldn't be in front of the media in the Oval Office. Like
Yeah, no.
I think those are well, in front of the media, you gotta realize in front of the media, that's like Trump's home. He lives
Hmm.
there. That he
Hmm.
lives for that. And so you have to be aware of who you're dealing with and in the situation at hand. Like if you want to argue with Trump, you do it behind closed doors where nobody can hear you bitch him out because then he there's an opportunity for him to see like if he did something wrong. You're never going to win in the media with Trump. That's just not the way you're going to do it. That's
No
not
way.
what that's not the way his personality is aligned.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, like, uh, you know, uh, we here in like this online thing, whatever we want to call it, right? I mean, I guess some of us have some degree of media savviness, otherwise we wouldn't really be here, right? Like we're in the podcasting sphere, we got people that listen to us, right? But
Mm,
Donald Trump has just been in this thing his entire life on
right.
major network news shows. I mean, he knows the media landscape better than we can ever hope to, and I think that's something that it's something we kind of just like take for granted, right? It's like, oh yeah, well, Trump was on TV, but it's like, no, like Trump was on TV, man. Like this is how he thinks, this is how he knows. He's very keen on like where he's looking, like in camera positions. I mean, you saw this last night during his address to Congress. He like just his death staring Democrats. When he's saying certain phrases, it's
Mm.
yeah. I mean, the guy knows he's a showman.
Well, and he knows, and I heard somebody had said because you got all these people coming out and breaking down all this stuff that's taking place. Somebody had said that he had constructed the speech was to make the Democrats look bad, and well, first of all, it's not that difficult because
Yeah.
anything he says, they're against. And it's like, okay, well, just say you want to get rid of cancer and they're suddenly pro cancer. I mean, that's
Hmm.
just their mindset. But and he made that point last night. He even like took time out of the speech to make the point that it doesn't matter. Like I've been here 5 times and there's nothing I can say to get these people to applaud. But
Hmm.
then you have this whole situation with this like what 12-year-old boy who's been fighting cancer for 5 years and he's been an honorary member of like 900 police departments. Now he's an honorary member of the Secret Service, and they just sit there like bumps on a log, and it makes them look so terribly bad. It's like
Yeah.
I know you're against most of the things that Trump stands for, but if you want a political career, you cannot be against stopping women from getting raped, stopping children from being exploited, and fighting children cancer in children. Like those three things you have to be for. Like the American people will not look at you as humans if you are not for those things.
Yeah, they really have just like boxed themselves into this ideological corner, basically, where like some of the more rational thinkers and a lot of like the older people like James Carville and stuff, and we even saw this during the election cycle with like when like leaks were coming out of Carville yelling at young Democrat staffers, calling them all fat and faggots. It's
Carville
like
is still one of the best.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, and like he sees the writing on the wall here that all this like DEI and woke shit is just destroying your credibility. Like nobody likes this stuff. Nobody really believes it at the end of the day. And no like Democrat wants to be the first one to like break ranks on this because they just know that the DNC apparatus is not going to allow them to be reelected next year. And it's crazy because they're literally just going to go down with the ship. They can't right themselves. They just can't do it. And I'm all here for it, man. Like just come on. Keep doubling down on all this nonsense. Keep making David Hogg, the vice chair of the DNC. Come on, like keep doing it. See
oh
how far they
yeah.
can
And
sink.
then he gets caught up in a scandal like 2 weeks in to being the vice chair. It's like
Mhm.
4 years ago or 6 years ago, whatever it was, Tulsi Gabbard was the vice chair of the DNC, and now you have David Hogg.
Yeah. What a downgrade.
Right? It's mind blowing that they just accept it.
hmm Yeah, it really is like the inmates running the asylum, for them. And yeah, it's like no, you can't stand up when a national wildlife refuge is named after a 12-year-old girl who got killed by an illegal immigrant. It's
Yeah.
like, oh no, we can't say anything about that. I'm just gonna stand up and be Al Green and hold up my cane so I can go home and take a nap after I get kicked out of the Senate chambers. It's so ridiculous.
Have you seen the meme that they made out of him holding up his cane? It's where are
Uh,
my transgender rats?
yeah, yeah. I've seen a bunch of memes of like that, you
Well,
know,
yeah, you go into the situation and you hold up signs.
yeah, yeah. I've seen
you're
so many
you're
memes of
just
those signs.
asking for it.
Oh yeah, it's like they literally made the meme template for you already. I've seen a bunch of saying like "I'm ass mad," like it's all they're saying, and it's like the same thing with all these like limp dick protests that you're seeing at all of like the state capitals throughout the entire union. I just saw one just yesterday. They had it like at Lansing, and there's just not a single person in the audience who's under the age of 55. They're all a bunch of old boomers. They've all got their like stupid fucking signs up and stuff, and saying Elon Musk is going to cut Social Security and everything. It's just, it really just shows you now more than ever whose brains are just like completely poisoned by CNN. And it's just like nobody, it actually is really amazing how like all the youth energy is just around Trump. It's like, it's cool to be, like a Trump supporter now. It wasn't like that years ago. Like there really has been a shift in the culture.
I'll never forget there was one time we were talking about Pete earlier, and there was one time this guy was arguing with Pete about something, and he said something. I can't remember exactly what he said. And Pete just stopped the entire argument. And he just goes, "Is this your first day on the internet?" And that's how I feel looking at these Democrats.
Mhm. Uh, yeah, they just can't help themselves but keep putting their foot in their mouth, But
Well,
yeah,
but they put themselves in the worst position. You
mhm.
can't sit there and hold up a sign. Like you can't do it. That's 5 years ago we learned that. Like you
Yeah.
don't hold a sign.
Did you
Don't
see
give
this thing
anybody an
too?
opportunity to put any kind of like text near you.
Yeah, never do that. Did you see this like well, I wouldn't really call it a scandal, but there was this like clips going around. Do you know how back in like 2016 the big thing was making clips of all the fake news media and they all said the same thing at the same time, no matter
Yeah. Oh,
who they were.
you're talking about the new Democrat slogan,
Yes.
And then Cory Booker comes out and says, "Yeah, I wrote the script."
Yeah, it's like TikTok videos of like 25 Democrat senators all releasing the same script, the same video. They're all making the same hand motions. They all like do that
They
stupid
all
fucking thing where they
sit
sit
down at the
down.
same
Yeah,
time.
yeah. It's like, what the fuck is this, you liars? No, all of them at the same time doing the same thing. And it's like, guys, it's Twitter. We can see this shit. It's not hard. You can't run this old playbook. I'm sorry. Like times have changed.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
but
so insane. It's
mhm.
just it blows my mind that like I said, is it your first day on the internet? Like people pick up on these things. We see what's going on. And you can't like they're so stuck in the 90s as far
Mhm.
as their messaging and the way that they attack politically that they don't understand that all of us see what is happening right before our eyes.
Oh yeah, I mean this attack vector that they have right now, because the only thing they've been able to get away with for the last several decades is victim narrative of some kind or another, to get somebody to, fall for like their tricks. Basically, it's like, oh, look at this poor downtrodden so and so. Like, name your favorite group here, right? Well, now they're trying to do this with government workers. And it is just not taking because everyone, no matter who you are, hates government workers in America because we've all had to take trips to the DMV. We've all had to take trips to the Secretary of State. We all know what a nightmare it is to deal with like TSA agents, like when we're trying to fly on planes. Everybody hates these people because we know they're incompetent, we know they're lazy, and we know they're all overpaid. And they're trying to say, like, they're trouting out these characters who got fired from like butt plug studies in Mozambique or something on 60 Minutes. And like, Donald Trump is cutting US aid and all these people are out of work and out on the streets. And every average American is like, thank God, do more of it, please.
Yeah, right.
They're like, aren't you sad? I'm like, I'm sad he's not doing enough. you know?
Right. Well, and so the whole thing about the let's like Social Security, right?
Mhm.
And they're like, well, there are these people in the Social Security system that are 150 years old, 360 years old, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, yeah, but that's due to the program that Social Security uses. It uses a program called COBOL, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, okay, so you're telling me the government is spending trillions of dollars a year and it can't update a program.
Yeah. It's like they
That's
try
what you're
to,
telling me. Like, this is not the win you think it is. And so when Trump comes out last night in his speech and he starts talking about these things, they're all like, oh, these are debunked lies. It's like, no, these are not debunked lies. What this is showing how incompetent government has been. That's what it's showing.
yeah, it's basically saying that, like, oh, Trump goes out and says Social Security fraud is because they are paying people who have been dead for 200 years. And the Democrats are saying, oh no, the fraud is just because there's a glitch in the system. Don't you see? It's not real fraud. It's just this other kind of fraud. It's like, so it's still fraud, right? No, no, but it's not the fraud that Trump said. Doesn't that make you mad? No, like, stop the fucking fraud. Well, we can't bring up
Right.
the fraud because,
Yeah,
the
right.
fraud
Yeah.
isn't because Donald Trump is talking about this kind of fraud.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah.
yeah, no,
It,
it's
it's
it's so
it's
ridiculous.
it's like we discovered under COVID. It's only a conspiracy theory for 6 months.
Mhm.
Like after
Yeah.
6 months, the conspiracy theory is now the truth.
Oh,
And
the one vector that has just driven me up a wall on this when it relates to the Social Security stuff is, they're relating it to illegal immigrants, because they basically can't say like, oh, well, there's no fraud existing. But what they're trying to say now is that, oh, well, you see, these Social
oh,
Security
this
numbers are how illegal immigrants pay taxes and contribute to the system. It's like, oh yeah, right, uh-huh. So Julio and Jamal, is coming over the southern border, to get his Social Security number so he can pay fucking taxes, right? Yeah, get the fuck out of here. This is ridiculous. We know it's fraud. We know people use these numbers to get social benefits, in the United States. There's whole
right.
programs that are attached to getting people, driver's licenses, Social Security numbers. Yeah, I'm sure you illegally cross over the border, and the first thing you want to do is pay 24% of your money into income tax, right? Uh-huh.
Well, okay. So my wife's an immigrant, and here's the deal. They lie constantly. They're lying. I know for a fact that immigrants are getting access to these social programs no matter what Democrats say, because when my wife was going through the whole program to get a social security number and get the green card, when the first question they asked after she was approved was, do you need benefits? Do you need assistance? And they started offering us all these opportunities to get food and money and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, we weren't in the situation where we needed to, but it doesn't mean that there aren't people out there that are going to take advantage of that system.
Mhm. Absolutely. I mean, like just because the all right, so just if you are on basic like benefits, you have to put it in the context. Like Americans are spoiled in this context where, they think that $15,000 isn't that much money, but $15,000 puts you in the top 10% of the entire planet. You know,
Yeah.
and so it's like, oh, well, of course I'm just going to walk over the southern border and take this 15 grand. It might not be a lot to you who's grown up in, New York City or something your entire life and you've been accustomed to a certain standard of living, but it sure as hell beats growing up on a dirt floor in Bangladesh. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
so yeah, so of course these people are going to come here.
Well, and my favorite thing is that when the Trump administration is pointing out all the waste from USAID, all these people say, "Oh, well, that's like 0.1% of the spending." Okay. Well, if we can save 0.1% of the spending, we're that much closer to balancing the budget.
Mhm.
Like if you're doing your budget at home, those are the things you're cutting at home, right?
Yeah.
You're cutting the 1.1% of your spending. You're because you're like 0.1% here, 0.1% there, and you're just doing these little freaking things that are causing you to be in a financial situation that you don't want to be in. And so you cut those things in order to better your life and to increase your wealth, and therefore you can still make the big payments on the things that you need, like your home, your car, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you cut out cokes, you cut out nicotine, you cut out, candy bars, whatever. You cut out the small shit, and all that small shit adds up, and it's a big sum of money.
Yeah, and everyone knows this too. Like you go on any ad service or you watch TV or watch YouTube or something, some of the ads you're bombarded with all the time are like these tracking subscription service like apps or something. It's like see how much money you could save on your online subscriptions. It's like people let their Netflix accounts lapse or something and it's on the
Right.
automatic subscription thing and and that's how they get you, right? So like they have apps now where they're even tracking, how many things are you paying for on a monthly basis. I mean, this is also like basic bitch, like Dave Ramsey 101 stuff. It's like the debt snowball, take out the
Right.
lowest debt first and then you tackle the big stuff. And the other thing that's really deceitful that they're doing is they're attaching the spending on all this like US aid stuff as a percentage of the entire budget when that's not really the discussion that's being had at hand. The discussion is the deficit. And the deficit is not the entire budget. The deficit is how much money we are overspending on our budget. And that number is significantly lower than the entire budget of the United States to begin with. So when you are $1 trillion over on your deficit spending, cutting $250 billion from various sources, whether it's Ukraine funding or, all this US AIDS crap, that's already 1/4 of your deficit spending taken care of right away. So
Mhm.
yeah, it might be a drop in the bucket in the context of all of the money that the United States spends throughout the entire year. But if you're just trying to balance the budget, which is what they've said from day one, yeah, obviously you're going to cut this stuff. Nobody needs it. It's clearly not being effective in anything. And why wouldn't you cut it? And of course, you can't cut it because all these people vote Democrats and they all support Democrats. And, they send money to Democrat causes. And these people get to live in cushy jobs where they basically do nothing all day and collect a big fat government check. Everyone knows these things exist. It's been happening our entire lives.
Well, yeah, I just remember as from a human experience and just being out in the world. I remember one time I I went and I bought a Coke, when I was working, and then I looked back at my bank statement, and that Coke cost me $30, and it's because I overdrafted my account by
Oh,
purchasing this Coke, which at the time was like $1.25 or $1 for a 20-ounce Coke at the time. But because I only had like 15 cents in my account at the time, like it overdrew my account. And I remember looking at that and going, "Oh, I need to stop like spending money on this because this is hurting my family." But the US government, when they're spending all this money and they see $37 trillion in debt, it doesn't hurt their quality of living. Their quality of living in Congress continues to increase. So it doesn't hit them the same way as overdrawing our account in the personal field would.
oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, like the person who gets their hands on the money first, and when you're closest to the money printer, you get the opportunity to buy things before the inflation sinks in. So, I mean, of course, these people want to have their cushy government jobs more. You know, they're closest to the fountain, as it were. So, I don't know. Do you want to talk
So
about something more interesting, like your trip? You know?
we can talk about that, but I want to talk about these Epstein files too, because
Ooh, okay, spicy.
there's been some like wild shit coming out around that stuff. So you had this whole situation with these with like Mike Cernovich and libs of TikTok and these influencers going to the White House, and they're given these binders and they walk out, and in the binders, the big news of the binders was the letter that was at the front of the binder saying SDNY is like hiding the Epstein files. Then a day or two later, we had the head of the FBI office of New York actually resigned. I think his name was James Dennehy, I believe was his name. He resigned, and now we're getting reports that a truckload of documents has showed up to shown up to the White House, and their Epstein files. Now, of course, this could all be propaganda. It could all be bullshit. We know how governments lie and how they operate. So until they start releasing these documents, um, I'm kind of on the whole situation as far as what did they get? Did they really? Are they really talking about releasing the files or not? They're talking about, well, we'll release everything except for things that have to do with national security. And if my suspicions are correct, that's everything in the files have to do with
Yeah,
national
exactly.
national security.
Yeah.
So um, it sounds to me like they're really like trying to play it down now and trying to tell us, oh, well, there's not a lot there. But we know that it, every, here's the thing I've heard the last week that's driven me crazy. Maybe you don't know this. Maybe it's driven you crazy. I don't know. But they keep saying, well, Ghislaine Maxwell's the only person that's associated with Jeffrey Epstein that's ever been arrested. And I'm like, dude, Les Wexner was arrested in France and ended up, quote unquote, killing himself in a very similar fashion that Jeffrey Epstein killed himself. So, like, why are we not talking about Les Wexner as well?
I will say this at the very start. This was the first time I was genuinely upset at the Trump administration since taking office. Was this dog and pony show of,
Oh, I thought
oh,
Cash Patel was the first time you were upset.
oh, well, yeah, 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 he's well, I'll say this: the janitor at the FBI building is going to be in business a lot longer now than Cash Patel is there. But I'll but so they do this whole dog and pony show thing with Pam Bondi coming out saying, "Oh, promises made, promises kept. We're finally going to release the Epstein files."
Most
And then
transparent
yeah,
administration. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and then we get the who's who of like conservative Inc. characters that get access to the White House, which I thought was really the only interesting part about this whole thing is that they didn't give the files to traditional media like CNN or anything. They gave it to online posters, basically, which I think is a nice change. I was making the joke that they should have given it to Bird, and Timeline Earth is who they really should have given it to. But so
He
we
would have
open these.
lost it. He would have lost it when he hit that alligator.
Yeah. Uh, and then like we get the pictures going out afterwards, and oh, well, every single thing is redacted just like it used to be, and there's really nothing too new here. So, all right, thanks guys. You just blue balled us all again on this thing. And really, I'm kind of just taking in a more fati kind of view on this at this point where, I mean, the elites are evil. I know they're evil. I know they get up to this kind of, weird degenerate sex shit all the time. This isn't really new to me. And I already hate these people so much and I want them removed. And even if these files are actually released in all of their details, let's just say like magically that they get like WikiLeaks or something, and everything that's in there, everyone gets to look over. I, I'm gonna be honest. I don't even think I'd even want to read it because I don't want that kind of stuff just in my brain. It's
Right.
like when you see footage from like these drones like blowing up like Ukrainian women who have now been forced to go on the front lines. I saw a horrible one that came across my timeline of a woman literally being blown in half by a drone. It's like on the front lines in Ukraine.
Jeez.
And it's like I don't need to see this stuff. I don't need to see the details of what's going on in these files. I already hate these people, and I don't really think that we're gonna get closure on this one. I think it's gonna be another like JFK thing where it's just floated around for decades, and when all the guilty parties are long gone and in the dirt, then they might actually start trickling out this kind of stuff. I mean, so I've
Did
kind of
you
just washed my hands of this story, to be honest.
did you read the book that came out a few years ago? God, who it wasn't John Grisham. There's a fiction author who's good friends with Bill Clinton. I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but he wrote a book.
Sorkin, maybe.
No, 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 no. He wrote a book a few years ago, and it was all on the Epstein files. And this was in I was still driving over the road, so we're talking probably about 2015 or so. And he laid it all out how he had gone to jail, but he wasn't really spending time in jail. And like he had laid it all out. Man, I can't think of that author's name. It's going to kill me. Um, but I'm going to Google it while I'm talking. But when you read that, you start reading into the stuff that Epstein did. Um, it really drives people like me or you crazy because it's like we're not these degenerates. Like this isn't
Not
the way
really.
that most people live.
Hmm.
Um, and so how does this guy get off? Like who does he know? You know, it just drives you crazy. It's just one of those things you're looking at, you're going nuts. You're like, why is it that people aren't James Patterson, sorry, Filthy Rich by James Patterson. Um, but basically the only thing published in there was just kind of a general outline of what had happened. And this was before he was arrested federally. This is when Florida was doing the investigations, and it was talking about how they had arrested him uh, and given him this kind of like light deal that was just kind of like real easy on him. He was able to leave the prison for 12 hours on end, 12 hours at a time every day, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that type of deal. But anyway, and it covered a lot of it got into a lot of the criminal files were published in there as well. But anyway, it just makes you wonder, like, what kind of people just kind of look at this and like roll their eyes at it. And I heard a guy say, I was listening, I was checking it with Patrick Bet David, I think it was yesterday.
Hmm.
And he's got that. that guy Adam Sauce, whatever, on his
Oh,
podcast.
that guy. Yeah.
Yeah, that guy. Everybody hates
Mhm.
that guy.
Mhm.
But he was saying that like when they were interviewing Andrew Tate was making a point that it was like, well, the clients of Jeffrey Epstein are create $100 billion a year businesses that pay bills and pay wages to average Americans. And my mindset is like you don't sell out your morality. You don't sell out your soul, right? And if you're willing to put the importance of monetary value over the importance of the innocence of your children, then there's something seriously wrong with the country if that's the way they're going to look at it.
Oh yeah, yeah, very true. I mean, there's plenty of reasons to criticize the Tates and Bet David and all these other guys, but you're totally right. Like if you're even at this point where you're having this argument, it really just does go to show you how far we really have fallen as a society. I mean, the other thing I have to laugh about this case is, oh well, we're just going to redact information that is dangerous to national security. And when I read that, it's just, oh, so national security for Israel, right?
You're
You know?
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, what's that CIA whistleblower's name? I've had him on my podcast. Believe I can't think of his name. I can see his face. He was the one who blew the whistle during the George Bush administration about the torture centers overseas, the black sites.
Oh,
Um, God, I can see his face. I just can't think of his name off the top of my head. I apologize. Anyway, he had come out and said, yeah, like if you look at the Epstein, like if you look at what Epstein was doing, it has all the hallmarks of CIA and Mossad all over it.
oh yeah. Yeah, uh, it absolutely has. I mean, you cannot tell me that a guy who we don't know where his money comes from, we know he's got connections with U.S. politicians, you know he's got connections with Mossad. You can't tell me that these people do not have their fingers in this pie. I mean, the CIA is like literally in everything, and so is Mossad in everything. You're gonna tell me this one case that they aren't involved with this when it's blackmailing the most powerful people on the planet? Like, come on.
Maybe we should check the NSA chat room. Maybe they have some information.
Oh, oh no. That was another one of those stories that like when I saw it break, I was like, I am not clicking on this link. Like there's no way. I don't
Well,
need to read
it's
these
also
sentences.
also you look at it and you're like, obviously.
Yeah, yeah, I totally believe it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
the
okay.
NSA is staffing like furries or some shit, like for DEI initiatives. It's so fucking bananas. Yeah, it's just what Thomas Jefferson and Washington would have wanted. Guys, never forget
Right.
that.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. All
Mhm.
right. Well, let's talk about traveling. So,
Yeah.
so you're traveling here soon.
I
Um,
am, yeah. So literally, as today of recording, I'm heading back to Africa on a safari. I just booked it today, and I'm hyped,
where are
man.
you going?
Limpopo, like South Africa.
Oh,
So
nice. Have you
mhm.
been to Kruger?
I've not been to Kruger, no.
Oh, dude, you got to go to Kruger. It's beautiful. And
Yeah, I'd like to.
you have to make your way into Namibia.
Yeah, that is just so beautiful because like we were talking about this before we came on that I heard you talk about it a bit on Timeline Earth and it sounds beautiful. It just sounds like a magic country. Like the Namib goes right up to the ocean. It's like the only spot in the
Mhm.
world where the desert meets the sea and yeah, it's like with the oldest desert in the world too,
Dude,
right?
the
Yeah.
Etosha Pan is so incredible to see. Like
Hmm.
I know like if you look at pictures of it, it's just like, oh, it's just white sand. Yeah, it's just white sand. But when you freaking drive through Etosha, the national park, and you're catching glimpses of the Etosha Pan, it's like, wow, this place is massive. It
Hmm.
is incredible. It'll blow your mind.
Yeah.
If you ever want to go to Namibia, like obviously get in touch with me. I'll get you in touch with the people I met in Namibia, and we'll get you a nice place to stay in Henty's Bay and get you on the right track to make a trip through there. But going to Limpopo, what are you going to do in Limpopo?
Oh, well, aside from the hunting, I want to do a shark cage dive. I want to see some great whites. I also have to go to
Mm,
the coast for that.
mm. So
Well,
are you going to Durban to do that?
I'm not sure where I'm gonna go, like around there yet, because there's plenty of options around like the coastline. Like you go like all the way to Mosel Bay. You could do like the Cape Town side of it too. It's like where they have really
Yeah.
famous stuff. So there's plenty of options. I haven't figured out exactly which side of it I'm gonna go to yet, and I also kind of got to do a little bit more research as to, all right, well, there's a lot of civil unrest in certain parts of this country, so you gotta keep your head on a swivel a little bit in certain areas. So. Uh, we'll see. But uh, I'm not gonna have many problems when you're out in the middle of nowhere with humans. Just have to deal with dangerous animal and stuff. But I live for it, man. I mean, I did a safari in Tanzania. It's like 10 years ago now was the last time I was over there. Even longer than that, like 15, maybe yeah, like 15 or 17 years ago now, and it's crazy. I love it. I'm really excited to go back. I haven't done any like big game hunting in several years, so I'm hyped for it. But um interestingly enough, like so what made you decide to go Namibia? That's one of those countries I just never hear like anything about really. Like I never hear civil unrest, I never hear like civil wars and stuff.
Well,
It just sounds like a great place.
Boko Haram had gone crazy out there
Oh, really?
a few years back, in the northern portion of Namibia.
Okay.
Um,
They share a border with like Angola, right? So
yeah,
that's who's in the
yeah,
north. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's been a hotbed of nonsense for ever since the
Right,
war.
right. So Etosha butts right up to Angola. Like if you go through certain parts of the Etosha Park, you actually enter into Angola.
Oh, really?
Um, yeah. So like the northern section of it. So growing up, I had always been like a National Geographic kid.
Yeah, me
I
too.
just I like loved Nat Geo on television, watching the documentaries of the hyenas and lions. And a lot of those were filmed in Namibia. And then my wife's dad is from Namibia
Oh, really?
originally. Yeah.
Huh.
And this was back when Namibia and South Africa were one country.
Yeah.
And so he had gone from Namibia to South Africa searching for his brother because his brother had moved and he had joined the military. And after serving in the military, like the country split up
Mm.
and created two countries. And and so he has he has citizenship in both countries
Oh,
still.
okay.
So, and it has a lot of family still in Namibia. And so, since I'd grown up seeing Namibia and knowing her dad was from Namibia, I was like, it would be really cool for me and my father-in-law to go take a trip together. Like, he's getting older, and he had come and stayed with us for like 6 months. So I would like to go up there and spend some time with him and him to show me around the country of Namibia where he grew up. And so, yeah, I took a couple of weeks off work, flew out there, and we spent 10 days in Namibia
Wow.
on a road trip. And we went to Hinty, we drove from Windhoek to Hinties Bay and then up to Etosha. So we just drove around the entire country. Basically, if you look at a map, you can see basically we went from Windhoek through Spitzkoppe to Hinties Bay, back through Spitzkoppe, and then up to Etosha. So like we drove right through the center of the country and saw a lot of like the bushland as well as like went fishing on the coast in the Atlantic on the other side of the Atlantic and then drove all the way up to Etosha and spent 3 days in Etosha and enjoyed that time up there, seeing the animals and just the nature up there. And then drove back to Windhoek and flew back to South Africa.
Yeah.
So,
That's yeah, that's awesome. I previously on previous trips I'd done like South Africa, Zimbabwe, Zambia, and Tanzania and Kenya. and it's a whole different world out there, man, than the US. I mean, like
Mhm.
you, I grew up as a Nat Geo kid too, and also like on the hunting side of things. So, from a very young age, it's like, okay, we're going in the woods and we're checking out animals, and so I do plan to do a game drive, like a photo safari, as well as just actual hunting as well. So kind of get both sides of it, but yeah, it's totally different over there. Like just nothing looks like what we have over here. Like
Yeah. I mean,
the
my father-in-law worked on a rhino farm the first time I
oh
went.
wow
First time I went to South Africa, he worked on a rhino farm, and
wow.
there's nothing like seeing a baby rhino running. Like, I don't know, they're like the
They're
cutest things in
cute,
the
yeah.
world.
Yeah, they're so goofy looking. Yeah.
you know. Well, and then we went to oh, what was it called? It's the biggest seal reservation in the world there in Namibia, and there was millions of seals everywhere. And
Wow.
I'd walk out of the fisherman's guest house, walk across the street onto the beach, and look to my right or my left, and there'd be seals just sitting on the beach. It's just so wild there. It's so cool. And the people
Mhm.
there are so wonderful. Like Namibia, the people are so sweet. It's the sweetest natured people I've ever met in my life. I always make fun of my friends that live in Canada. I always tell them, I was like, yeah, everybody I've ever met says Canadians are the nicest people in the world, but fucking Namibians are giving you a run for your money, so you better straighten up, motherfuckers.
Yeah,
Like,
I've really heard like nothing too bad about that country, like ever. I
uh,
mean,
it's
just like my own interest on the hunting side of things, like Namibia is a huge conservation success story as a
yeah,
country. It's one
yeah,
of the few countries left on the planet where you could still legally hunt rhinos because there's just so many of them. Oh, and so if somebody wants to go and like shoot a rhino, like yeah, you go to Namibia, you got to pay out the ass to do it. But they have enough of them where the state has decided, you know what, this is actually a stable population, and we will actually give quotas to hunters to go and hunt them here because there's enough of them. So they do a pretty good job with their wildlife management over there.
yeah. It's awesome, man. Like I said, I love it over there.
Mhm.
The people are just incredible. Um, I've been to South Africa, I've been to Namibia. I haven't been quite as far as many places as you have, but it's one of those places that you go to and you're like, I don't want to leave.
Oh
I love
yeah,
it here.
yeah, yeah.
These
It's just
people are
it's
the
otherworldly.
well, the
Yeah.
people are so cool too. The people are so great. Like, it's like I don't want to go deal with the people in the United States again. You know, y'all, you people are so amazing. Like, I don't want to go deal with the crap I have to deal with in the US.
Yeah.
And especially if you go into the areas where it's like culturally Namibian and you're
Mhm.
not there in the middle of a tourist time, right? So, I was able to meet some of my wife's family that lives in Namibia still, and it was just so much fun to hang out. I didn't go during the tourist season, so it was a lot of fun because there wasn't a lot of interruption as far as like running into a bunch of Western people. These were just Namibians that I was dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And it was so cool to hear their stories and to talk to them and get their perspective on things. And it's just like, oh, wow, yeah, this is a different place. It's a different world. And it's such an interesting place. And I think I told Bird when we were recording um, that if I didn't have to leave, I wouldn't have left. Like,
Mm.
I would have stayed
Yeah,
because I
it's like
was so comfortable there. I felt so at home that it's like, all right, it's like, so the place that I stayed, the fisherman's guest house. So come to find out after the fact, and this isn't on their fault. It's just communication problems whenever you're trying to make reservations overseas. Like, there's always issues trying to figure out how it works out. So from what I understood, they only took cash. Well, I'm like, okay, I have to give them Namibian dollars. Well, I didn't know I could have paid them US dollars. And because they have a business license in Namibia, it converts to the bank will convert it for them to
Oh, okay.
Namibian dollars. So what I did is I just saved all my money and then I just went over there and I started withdrawing from the ATM. Well, that's the amount of money I spent to stay at this place for 3 days. It I had to withdraw 6 times because I kept hitting the limit, you
Oh
know.
yeah, yeah.
so 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 I'm like standing there and they have people, you know how it is in South Africa. People will gather around the ATMs, kind of watch you.
Yeah,
Like, so you
yeah.
got people like kind of like watching what I'm doing. And then I walk out and it's like they start introducing themselves. It's like they're not there to rob me. They're there to
Yeah,
like
yeah.
find out like where are you from? What are you doing? Like et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they realize because I'm in there for so long that I'm from another country. So I'm in
Hmm.
there like drawing out 9,000 Rand in
Hmm.
in order to pay for my visit. And I walk out and there are all these people standing around and they all just start talking to me. And it was like so interesting. I was just so interested. If my father-in-law wouldn't have been in the truck waiting on me to leave, I'd probably still be there talking to those people right now. Like I was having so much fun genuinely just interacting with those people because they were so curious and interested as to why I was in Henty's Bay.
Hmm. It's like, I guess a good way to describe it to people who have never been over there, there are very few places left in the world where you can feel like you could just get lost, and that's definitely one of the places. It's just
Yeah, I describe it as like a third world Wyoming.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's very similar in that regard. Like you read like accounts and stories from people like Mad Mike Hoare, who were some of these like African mercenaries during the Cold War, who just like retired,
Yeah.
afterwards after spending decades abroad in like far off Africa, just living in the wilderness, just like with either like mercenary bands or in the in the courts of various like dictators or whatever. And it's just a totally different place to the United States. If you think like, oh, well, if something works here in America, this is just how it works everywhere. It's like, no, like go over to Africa, man. Like there's like there's no 911 really, like the cultural norms are totally different. The way people drive is different. The fauna they have to worry about is totally different. It's and like the landscapes are some of the most beautiful spots in the entire world. Like you have to go to, just like you said, you have to go to like Wyoming to see just wide open spaces with no
Yeah.
like thick tree cover anywhere in sight. And then also like you just look out the corner of your eye and like, oh, there's a giraffe. We got nothing like that over here. But yeah,
Yeah.
they're just
Yeah.
wandering around. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
you mean this thing that I can only go and see if I go to the zoo is just walking around here? Yeah.
Have you did you hear that episode I did with my buddy Gord McGill?
No, can't say I
Oh,
did.
yeah, you gotta check out his stuff. He writes a lot and
Hmm.
he's been published in Newsweek, Blaze, all over the place. He's been published. So he's a former truck driver like me. I'm not former. I'm still driving truck, but he's driven. He did ice road trucking in Canada. He drove in Australia. Did road trains in Australia. He's been all over the place driving truck, and
Hmm.
so he's writing about the trucking industry.
Oh
And
wow.
one of the things he talks about is how different the countries are. And so that when we were chatting um, on my podcast last time, we were talking about the road signs and how different they are, and how when I went over to Namibia, not only did I have to learn how to drive on the other side of the road, I had to learn to interpret the road signs,
Mm.
and figure out what these road signs meant, and
This is a good tip for me. I'm gonna have to read up on this when I go over in a
yeah,
couple months. Yeah.
yeah, you just it's like when you're looking at these signs, they're not like a lot of our signs in the US are written out. And so
Hmm.
you can read what the sign says. These are symbol. Everything's a symbol over there. And so it was like, oh shit, okay, what is this, like, just for example, why is there a number with a red circle around it? Oh, that's the speed limit. Oh, okay. What is this 300K mean? Oh, well, you can't park within 300 kilometers. Oh, okay. Things
Hmm.
like that. And you just, but here in the US, a lot of these things would just be written out because it's just
Hmm.
understood that people read English here. But
Yeah.
in South Africa, for instance, there's 11 languages that are spoken. So they use symbols in order you know, uh, to designate what's going on. And so you have to learn what these symbols mean in order for you to kind of get a grasp on it, you know. And
Yeah.
I mean, it won't take you long. I mean, I'm sure you've been driving long enough where after a little bit, somebody tells you this means this means that. You're like, oh, okay. It's
Hmm.
not going to take you long to grip onto. It took me maybe an hour to get used to driving, not only on the other side of the road, of the road, but also figuring out what the signs were saying to me as I'm passing them, you
Hmm.
know. And
Yeah, the other side of the road thing is gonna screw with me a bit too. I remember the first time I got off the plane at Johannesburg many years ago, and the driver's seat is on the opposite side of the car too, so you get in there and go over
it's
like
easier when you're
mm,
driving.
mm,
Yeah, I figured that out. It's easier when you're in the driver's seat than when you're in the passenger seat if you've
hmm
been driving for any amount of time, because like driving is recognizing patterns.
yeah.
That is like 90% of driving is recognizing patterns. So you just fall into the pattern. And
hmm
so it makes it a lot easier on you. There were
mm,
times where I'd be like, I'd turn on my left turn signal and I'd be sitting there waiting, and my father-in-law would be like, "What are you waiting on?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I can go."
yeah.
Like, but for the most part, it's fairly easy. Like you'll
mm,
figure it out pretty quickly.
mm, yeah. Well, I hope so. Yeah, but I'm excited, man. It's gonna be fun. So it's I mean, it's just like you were saying before about like just growing up National Geographic, it's I just can't get enough of all this like megafauna that we just don't have over here.
Yeah.
It's like okay, we got bison, and that's like it, and
Well,
there's
and you got
just
to go to North Dakota to see
yeah,
that.
yeah, you gotta go to like a couple select areas, but no, it's like there are dozens of megafauna in Africa that are just as big and they're everywhere.
Right. Yeah. I mean, shit, the kudu are as big as a bison, you
Yeah,
know.
I'm gonna try and shoot one. So I'm
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah, man, shit. I wish my father-in-law was still running that farm up in Namibia. I'd
Mm,
send you up there to him because that's kind of what they specialized in, was kudu on his
hmm
farm.
Yeah, they're
Everybody he brought for hunts on his farm it was kudu hunts. Yeah.
yeah, they're beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, and he would
they're
just
they're
take
very
the
unique
meat and
looking
he'd go
animals.
down to the market and
Yeah.
sell the meat to the market down in town in Ochu, you know?
Mm,
Yeah.
wow. Yeah. So what, like your wife's family with their like boar stock or something
But
or what?
yeah.
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 Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. If you find yourself in Johannesburg, I'll hook you up with some people. All you got to
hmm
do is like hit me up on WhatsApp. WhatsApp's everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody's
Exactly.
on WhatsApp.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. I mean, I'm texting the outfitter. Like when I first sent my email inquiry, he's like, "Do you have WhatsApp?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "All right, we could just text right through there."
Yeah.
Like, okay, I guess that makes sense.
Yep.
So. Yeah, but like the time difference has been kind of screwy, so I was like, I got like a
What
break
is it?
away
It's
from
like
at
9 hours right now, right?
yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I just got like a little break in the middle of the day at work, and I was like, all right, I gotta get this shit done, and because we were playing like phone tag in between when he's asleep and I'm asleep, and so I finally got done. It's like, all right, I'm gonna come on these dates, and I'm gonna hunt this stuff, and I'll drive out to there, so you don't have to pick me up from the airport or anything. It's like, all right, cool. I'm looking forward to it. Let's do it. Just wait. So it'll be cool. But yeah, like I think I'll go and check out like Cape Town too a little bit. I mean, I just see pictures of that place and it's like yeah, no wonder the Boers like settled here. Like this it's just like like God touched it. It's so
Well,
beautiful.
you gotta read on that history, man. That shit's really interesting. You'd really find it interesting
Yeah, I
when
don't
you
know
get
too much
into the
about
world.
it, so I'll have to read
Yeah,
up on it before I go.
it was actually a trading post. That was a fuel station and a trading post. It was just it was so they it was so they could they had a place to stop to get around the Horn of Africa.
Hmm.
And that was all it was for. The Dutch had stopped there and put up a trading post there so they could fuel up ships to get around the Horn of Africa for trading routes. And it was completely empty. There was nobody living there, you know.
Hmm.
And so
Yeah.
they just kind of made their way through the country and then eventually ran into Zulu
Hmm.
and then the English moved in there
Yeah.
and there was a big war between the English and the Boer.
Yeah.
It was
Hmm.
very similar to the American history though.
Hmm. Yeah, I know like bits and pieces about it, but yeah, I'll definitely have to read up on it a little bit more.
Yeah, it's
You know,
very
you
interesting.
you were talking about seals earlier. One thing I do want to check out, I want to check out some of the penguins, like the penguin colonies that they have
Yeah.
down there in South
Well,
Africa. 'Cause it's like,
have I told you we're moving to Cape Town in 10 years,
oh really?
2035.
Oh
My
yeah,
wife's like, we're going back to South Africa. We're moving to Cape Town. And I'm like, okay.
yeah.
So like my entire life right now is about saving money so that I don't have to try to work for pennies on the dollar when we get there
Yeah,
because I couldn't
it's
make any
like,
money driving truck there.
it's like what is it? It's like $1 is 20 South African rand right now or something
And it's like 18.
thereabouts.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
your American dollar is going to carry far there. I mean, I was looking at prices for taxidermists today, and I would pay like two and a half times as much in the States, to get taxidermy done. So I'm like, oh, I'm just getting it done over there, and I'll pay for the shipping to send it back to the States when it's done.
yeah,
I'll end up
it's
saving
not the
money in the
shipping
end.
that kills you, it's the taxing. It's when
Mm,
they because they'll tax you on it.
yeah,
When the
wonderful.
states tax you on it, it fucks everything. Yeah,
Wonderful.
yeah.
I mean, I am a tax accountant by trade. It's such a
Her
pain
bringing
in
her
the ass.
dog over here was just a pain in the ass.
Oh my
Yeah, she had a Budbull,
God.
so
Uh, and I'm sure they required like 10 different, vet scans to make sure that,
uh,
it was up to task and all this shit.
vaccines, yeah,
Oh my God.
vaccines and all kinds of shit. Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, and not to mention when she got here, she had to have 80 vaccines and she was vaccine injured and couldn't move her right arm for like 3 months because of the amount of vaccines. And
Fucking
it was,
hell.
oh, it was crazy. Yeah, it was nuts.
Wow. Well, I mean, hopefully, RFK gets in there and starts shredding all that shit up a little bit because, God, is that an absolute? It's just so ridiculous. Oh yeah, we're gonna pump our kids full of like 25 like vaccines within the first couple months of them being born. It's like, yeah, we got to make sure because certain demographics in the United States of America have a problem with STDs, and now we just need to universalize this. Like, yeah, let's make sure we give our kids hepatitis B vaccines in case their parents, have happens like what the fuck are you talking about, man? You know?
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah,
All right,
well,
man.
I'll definitely I'll take some pictures and I'll send them to you when I come back, man. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely do that.
Hmm.
But plug away.
Yeah. So most of my stuff can be found these days on the Old Glory Club. We do weekly streams on Thursdays, which is kind of like an all-around news show. And then also check out our website, theoldgloryclub.com. We have, as of this recording, we have 20 chapters across the entire United States, which are kind of little fraternal organizations. Guys meet up, they go to historic sites, they have like balls and banquets. A lot of guys have done hurricane relief stuff. We raised over $32,000 last year for hurricane relief in North Carolina. So get involved, man. A lot of our guys are getting employed by other guys. Some guys run their own businesses. People are looking for career changes. People are looking to move. It's really something. What's been coming along. So come around, be part of the crew. We'd love to have you.
All right. We're going to hear a lot more from you here shortly, hopefully. And we will see all those pictures soon. So I will stop the recording here